Hi guys, Jen with Astrology and Earth Magic here to provide some astrological wisdom to guide us through Saturn moving into the sign of Aries. That's going to be taking place on May 24th, and that is next Saturday. And it's going to be there until about September 1st when its retrograde phase will get it back into Pisces for a little while, but then it will permanently go back into Aries on February 13th of 2026, where it will stay until about April 12th, 2028. So you see, the weather here is really fitting for a show about Saturn. It's all rainy and kind of yucky, and we're forced to stay inside. So we already have some restrictions. Me and Chili are in here. She's looking out the window now, not very happy, but staying out of the rain. So, anyway, for the next couple months, you're going to see how and where you are going to be forced to grow up. It's going to be like a sneak peek. This evolution can take up to a couple of years. So, the whole transit through the sign of Aries. And the results might not even be seen really until Saturn moves into Taurus, really kind of fixing that progress that we've made. Now, the last few times that Saturn was in Aries was the last time was 1996 through 1999. Before that, 1967 through 69. And before that was 37 through 40. So, if you are old enough, you may have been through one or even two of these transits. So we'll look at how the transit has affected us as a collective here in the United States and what it can mean for us also as individuals and what to expect. So you will want to have your chart ready. So get your chart up, put your, of course, birth date, time, and place, and go ahead and find what house Aries falls in. And that is what area of your life you will most likely have impacted by this transit. So, this area of our lives will likely be facing some life lessons, an area of growth and maturity, gaining resources, and enabling us to move closer to our goals. So, Saturn transits. Sign it takes about 2.5 years in each house. So be ready to put in that work because it is going to be kind of not a quick development, but a little bit slower. It doesn't provide that instantaneous, it's not like Uranus. It doesn't like have some quick changes. So it takes time because you're learning, you're experiencing things and learning how to apply the knowledge that you receive through this time. Saturn and Aries can have you, excuse me, overcoming limitations like this limitation that's keeping us inside. So even if you or others don't feel like you are worth it, we see themes in U.S. history of Saturn and Aries very similar to this. Excuse me, there's allergies too. So you will be kind of forced to grow up in this area to take on a little more responsibility, and little by little, you will see this growth. And again, it can really be a hard life lesson. So a great song, if you guys are familiar, definitely check it out because it sums up this any Saturn transit really. And it is a song called "Some of It" by Eric Church. So the lyrics are, I'm not going to sing it, but the lyrics are: some of it you learn the hard way, some of it you read on a page, some of it comes from heartbreak, and some of it comes from age. None of it ever comes easy. And I know I probably don't know what I think I do, but there's something to some of it. So, total Saturn kind of symbolism here, where it's just saying like things are hard and you do learn lessons, and these can be hard lessons, but there's something to learning it and some of it. So, in the end, the lessons and the things that we go through make us into the people that we become. So, the skills, knowledge you attain is how you will be remembered, your reputation, and what you will pass on to the next generation. Saturn in Aries is like an evolutionary beginning. So, Aries is the beginning of the zodiac, and this will grow and change and evolve as it moves house to house throughout your chart. An evolution kind of reality, of things becoming reality, especially with Saturn leaving Pisces, where it was a little bit more abstract. Now it's becoming a little more concrete, becoming reality, making things happen. So you want to look inside yourself and, think. Do you take yourself seriously? Do you instill confidence in others? Are you cautious or are you too careful? Are you disciplined or are you too rigid? Do you accept responsibility are you reliable? Really? Do you have self control? Do you make excuses out of fear of change? And how do you relate to authority and your elders? These are the things that will be expected to face through this transit. Um, you can succeed with good work ethic and reliability and structure, discipline, learning from your failures and from your elders. These next couple of years will really be one of the things that could help shape your destiny. So let's look back on the history of Saturn and Aries here in the United States. We're only going to go back the past 100 years and see how this shaped our country. So during its transit from 1937 to 1940, we saw our first African American judge appointed. So that's barriers coming down and kind of that glass ceiling being lifted up. So really breaking through those barriers and legacies being formed. Um, we also saw the completion of the Golden Gate Bridge and the completion of the Appalachian Trail. So that is really, you're seeing structures, you're seeing things being built, you're seeing things and, structures being completed. Just exactly bridging gaps, getting to be able to get to things that were once hindered from our progress. So that's very, very Saturn. Also, we have the first World's Fair, and that was showcasing all the hard work that that we've done. Our achievements in industry, in science, and in culture. So it's really just rewarding you for the hard work you put in, which is pretty much what Saturn is. So then we have lots of Saturn stuff going on then. So now looking at the transit of 1967 through 1969 of Saturn in 80s. So we saw our first Black senator elected. Again, that's breaking down those barriers. So we see a lot going on with minorities and kind of moving forward. So that's Aries. It's making that progress. It's starting something new, like the first, and getting things going for the next generations to come. But then we had some disruption here, and the disruption in the progress. Again, another Saturn theme. We had a lot of Black riots and racial unrest. So we see Saturn's negative effects here with many arrests and even deaths. So that's the stopping of it, arresting it, and even dying because of them. But then another positive in the Black community was with the first Black Supreme Court justice. So ended up overcoming what kind of was the downfall and overcoming that to start again a new legacy. The transit was a tough fight for Black rights, of course, but ultimately those that had a good foundation and were disciplined, they then paved the way for the future. So the most recent transit was 1996 to 1999. So this one I went through when I remember it. So the big story during this time was Bill Clinton and the Monica Lewinsky scandal. So if you don't know about this, our President Bill Clinton, and we all found out he had an affair in the Oval Office with, I guess she was an intern, and her name was Monica Lewinsky. So that's very Saturn and Aries when, that's a lack of self control. That's Aries kind of being the one that's kind of not doing things, using that seniority almost, using that his status to almost kind of seduce her. And I think that's what kind of seduced her in the first place, was that she was seduced by his status. So that's kind of looking to your elders, and then stuff kind of gets out of control. And Aries can be very sexual. So we know that. So that's kind of spelled out. And I'm sure, and Saturn again is about learning difficult life lessons. And I'm sure that that was a very difficult life lesson for both of them, I would think. he kind of got through it a little bit easy, but she didn't. Was really, I'm sure, a tough life lesson for her. Next, we had this one's a little bit different. We had Dolly the sheep cloned. So that sparked conversations of morality and is this even ethical? Like people are like, this just seems not right. People want to have their dogs cloned and this. So there was really a lot of talk about things in ethics and what is moral and what is not. It's again a very Saturn thing. Saturn is very traditional, is very conservative, and that was very just kind of a new and exciting development, I guess. A very Uranus type, but not very Saturn. But Clinton comes in again and shows those Saturn limitations this time. So this is showing a little bit more restraint than he did with his previous scandal. And he puts a ban on any human cloning. So that's Saturn, that's throwing up that barrier. So I found that one pretty interesting too. So it'll be pretty interesting to see what plays out here because we already are seeing AI, we're seeing talk about different kind of robots that are going to be, who knows what else is going to be in our future. It will be interesting to watch and to see the legacies and a new way of life being formed. So these are going to be a lot of the sneak peeks we're going to be getting in these next couple months. So now let's talk about how this can personally affect us. So this is time when you want to get your charts out. So did you find the house that Aries is in? So if you're old enough, first of all, think back to the last time, the previous Saturn transit. How were you forced to evolve, and will you face similar themes? It most likely will be similar because it'll be in the similar house. So Saturn, again, moving around your chart is an evolution, mastering something now with each house that it transits, just kind of making more and more progress as you go. It's how you're seen by others, building independence and building up your legacy. And when it completes that 28-year-old cycle around the zodiac in your chart and goes back to where it becomes conjunct with where it was in your natal chart, that's when you have your Saturn return. And this can be very rewarding. So a lot of things that you worked really hard for in your younger years um, could be rewarding for you, but it also can be very challenging. So again, rewarding can be in the security that you've built and in this, security maybe financially, in relationships, friendships, in things that you've learned, maybe getting a good job, getting your career started, kind of having a little bit of security there where you feel like you have that job security because you know what you're talking about. But secret security in the knowledge that you've learned and how you can use it to teach maybe the next generation and spreading your legacy to continue long after you're gone. So this is the start of it, especially in Aries. It's starting to, promote that legacy being passed on. So first, let's look at the main themes or the elements of the house, and then you can kind of figure out how it's going to work for you. Of course, for everyone, it's going to be different because you have different things in the houses. You have, you could have a moon in there, you can have Mars, and it's the aspects are going to change things a little bit, but this is just kind of the broad themes of what to expect. So if this is falling in your first, fifth, and ninth house, those are the fire houses. It's about self-confidence, productivity, and achievements. In the second, sixth, and 10th houses, those were our earth houses. And that is about our self-worth, our effectiveness in society, and how society sees us. In the third, seventh, and 11th houses, that's our air houses. Now, this is our relationships with others, our outlooks, our ideas, and our mental health. And then finally, the water houses, which is the fourth, the eighth, and the 12th. And this can be our faith, our connection with the past, our traditions, our morals, and psychological issues. So if Saturn is transiting your first house, you can build and grow within with your self-esteem, with your self-worth and your self-confidence, how you can grow as an individual, because the first house is about you as an individual person, taking on your responsibilities that you place on yourself. You know, not something that's thrust upon you, but something that you want to take on to help yourself grow. Or, are you going to shrink away and limit yourself? So there's the two sides to Saturn that can bring us the benefits and then can bring us the negatives. Um, so if you limit yourself, you're not going to grow, you're not going to gain that self confidence. So you want to take on those responsibilities and, feel that you have that confidence in yourself to do that. In your second house, it could mean growing what we have, growing our wealth and what we might be earning. So, maybe working on um, moving up that ladder at work. So we're making more money so you can have more things. We're building that nest egg, maybe getting started with our 401ks, and that kind of thing, so that we can provide for our future. Um, and that financial security that we could have, the secure in your assets and what you own. If you buy a house, you don't want to be underwater, you want to buy one that has some equity in it, and that's putting yourself ahead. But then if you buy one too high, then you're kind of behind, and then you're kind of putting that block up where, like, I can't sell this now, like it's not going to be worth anything. Or you can lose it if you're rash and undisciplined, and lose the, say you bet everything and you go gambling and things like that. That can be how you might do rash things with that Aries in there that could hinder your, growing resources. If this is transiting your third house, it can be about building your social networks. It can be familiar, close relationships, neighbors, neighborhoods, maybe in your close community. Not love relationships, but more platonic relationships, like in your community. Those that can help boost you up. It's lining yourself with people that can help you and people that, help boost you and you can help grow from and learn from. So that would be a third house transit. If it's in your fourth house, the transit can be a connection with your past. It could be your lineage or your family traditions and even your morals. Okay, my cat's tail. You could be taking on more responsibilities with your family. So maybe if you have some older parents or grandparents, you might take on the responsibility of taking care of them like they took care of you. Or you could be being mentored by them and they're teaching you things. Maybe they had a skill that they're passing along to you. So this could also be about changing in your living situation, maybe getting something that you've worked really hard for, maybe buying your first home, or moving to some place, that you've always wanted to go, that you've been working towards getting to. Also, things needed in the home, like home repairs, things that you may have neglected in the past. Those, if you have neglected that, it could be coming back to kind of bite you in the ass now, because that's what I mean about, like, this being, Saturn can be very karmic. So that's what, a lot of times when you hear, you get what you work for, you have to work hard. But then there can be the bad karma that comes along when you neglect things. So you go to sell your house and you find out, oh, this, because this is wrong and I have to fix this and this before I could do it. So see how the roadblocks can come up there, in a fourth house transit. In fifth house, we have creations and productivity, children. This could be a time for you to take on the responsibility, maybe, of having children, or issues. Could also be issues with pregnancies, which is kind of the downside. So if you are pregnant, um, I mean, you can't, I really wouldn't recommend trying to get pregnant during a Saturn transit, because Saturn can have a lot of those limitations and can have a lot of those kind of things come up that could cause bad things to happen. Hopefully not, but if you get pregnant by accident, hope for the best. Put a lot of work into that pregnancy to really make it work. And also, it could be maybe turning your hobby into something lucrative. So something that you've been doing for a long time. Maybe you like modeling clay and, on the spinning wheel, and all of a sudden you decide to start selling it, you start making a career out of it. So this is how you could use that hobby into something lucrative. Maybe learn from others how they've done it, and how they start a business, and kind of go from there and learn from them. Saturn transiting your sixth house can be how you could be taking more control at your workplace, maybe taking on more responsibility at your job, working harder, wanting to take on those extra tasks, doing more, even becoming a mentor at work to those maybe who have not been there as long, that maybe are struggling, and you want to help them, or taking responsibility for your health. Sixth house has to do with your health. So maybe if you've been neglectful of your health, maybe now you are starting to get more motivated to fix that. So getting healthier and maybe more active, that can help you get a little bit, you know, better, so that you can live a longer life. That's Saturn. So maybe taking responsibility also for pets. Maybe adopting a new pet, or it could even be the loss of an older pet. So if you have an older pet that has some issues, things could be happening there. Definitely, you want to keep an eye on them. Or again, issues with your health. So if you aren't working on improving them, those issues can come back and, like I said, kind of bite you in the ass. So you want to take care of yourself, and you want to always progress. So these themes that you are going to see popping up in the next couple months, you're going to want to look at that and see how you can build and grow on it and not shrink away from it. That's how you can really benefit from a Saturn transit. I know Saturn, a lot of times people are really fearful of Saturn transits because, oh, Saturn's so negative and Saturn's so, but I actually really like Saturn. I've always been a hard worker. And I think, getting what you work hard for, I think, is really good. It makes you feel a little bit better than just having things handed to you on a silver platter. Um, so Saturn transiting your seventh house would be about relationships. Maybe you're going to get married. Maybe you're going to, finally put something. Saturn can be about kind of putting things in writing, maybe deepening that seriously relationship. Maybe you're just seeing somebody, and it's nice, and oh, you all of a sudden, are going steady, or whatever people call it nowadays. Maybe signing or building partnerships in work or career, and especially if tied in. So if you have something tying it in with the 10th house, it would most likely be about your career. And if it has, more just seventh house themes, it would tied in with Venus or anything like that, that could be more about just relationships. Um, Also, though, it could be a divorce. Say you've been neglecting your relationship or haven't been putting your all into it. That could be something that could happen there as well. Those negative sides of Saturn you could be seeing if you neglect. So Chili just wants to go out so bad. So if it is an eighth house transit, you can also signify going through a loss. Maybe a loss that could lead to an inheritance, a loss of an older relative. Saturn is about, our elders. It could be something like that, but that could lead to an inheritance perhaps. It could also be about gaining control of your debt, working to get out of debt, or working on any kind of psychological issues. So if you have a lot of stress, and using the, if you have already worked on these things, maybe using that to help others, kind of, giving back, being that mentor. Being a mentor is a very Saturn thing. So you're either getting mentored by somebody else, somebody older, somebody that's been through it with a lot of knowledge, that wise old owl, or you become that wise old owl that's then mentoring somebody else, passing on your legacy of learning onto somebody else. So helping those in need is always beneficial. So if it's in your ninth house, maybe it could be going back to school for some higher education, to just or maybe it's doing some teaching again, or mentoring in that kind of field, and even in a religion type field. You could be getting more involved in traditions of a particular religion that you've been looking into, learning a lot about it, really starting to get proficient in that. um, using that knowledge to pass that along. So maybe people that have been working in a certain religion want to become ministers, and then they are giving their gift that they've learned to their parishioners. Um, so passing along the knowledge, being worldly, going around the world teaching people about different cultures, different foods, different things that bring home with you, um, that you learn all over the world. That long distance travel. A 10th house transit, it could even be, actually going back to the ninth house, it can even be something like, I've always wanted to go to, say, Italy, and you've been working your whole life to save up the money, and finally now you have the chance to go to Italy. It could be something like that. So again, you got to think outside the box, because we do also have Saturn in a close conjunction um, with Neptune. So you want to think, these are your dreams. This is how you want to make your dream come through. And they're going to be starting, once they become conjunct, it's going to be starting a new cycle of pretty much, how do I put in the work to make my dreams come true? That can be a lot of what this is all about. So 10th house transit. It can also be about career, obviously. 10th house, it is all about career and the reputation that you've built around yourself, in the community around you, and who, you know, does the community and do your peers see you as a reliable person? Can you see yourself moving up in your career? You know, are you well known? Are you trusted in that field? Negatively, though, you could throw yourself into work a little bit too much, and cutting yourself off from your loved ones, maybe neglecting your family. And that would be some of the negative there, that you're too focused on work and not focused enough on your family, your spouse, your children. An 11th house, Saturn Aries transit, we have again networking. A little bit different though than a third house transit, because this is about, um, it's a larger scale. So you're getting a larger scale, and just not in such the small community. This is larger. So this could be building an online presence that you've been working towards, building an acquaintance group that together you could, grow and be successful. Um, if you look at a lot of the astrologers in the YouTube community, you see them working together. This one will invite this one on, and this one will invite this one on, and you start seeing the same ones all over the place, and they're each boosting each other. That's about, building those connections that could help boost you and help build those around you, and really aligning yourself with the right people, advertising even, and things like that, to really just kind of boost you in that way. And then finally, if it is in your 12th house, expect inner growth. This is with mental health issues that you might be having, or working with people with these issues, becoming a therapist perhaps. The downfalls and the negatives of this can be almost like banishment, because that's that hidden, uh, far away, that 12th house, that's things you hide. Um, Say you've done something illegal and it finally catches up to you. This can be the isolation of a prison, or even a hospitalization, mental health or physical, as Saturn can represent those limitations of our bodies and their limitations, that, maybe if we don't take care of them, then it will limit us to what we can and can't do, and we'll be shut in the house. Maybe we won't be able to go outside, we won't be able to walk. So that's about that kind of things, being shut away and cut away from other people. So no matter where this falls, you want to just start building. Knowing where to start can really be the biggest obstacle, but determination can really get you there. So as we build, we learn from our successes and our failures. Failures are actually the best learning tool. It's building strength and courage and wisdom. This is how we mature and develop and take on the responsibility of, fighting your fear and persevering. Fight that fear and persevere. So make a plan, get your footing, and take the Saturn Aries leap of faith with a calm and with a calm impulsivity. So that Saturn has that, okay, I'm going to be a little calmer. I'm not going to be quite so impulsive like Aries, but I'm still going to go ahead and do it. The new moon in Gemini happening 2 days later can really help. And this can ultimately begin the thought process and the planning and that seeding that could be your legacy and your destiny. So, if you like this video, please hit the like button and also please subscribe. Get notified because we have a lot of fun things going on this week. We're going to do some electional charts, and that's going to be about our upcoming trip because we are going on a trip next week. We're going to take you on some walks to see what is around, kind of show you some fun things to do, where we're going to go. I don't know. Why don't you just come with me and find out? I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So stay tuned and I will see y'all soon. Bye.